of nothingness into something that can at least spark some kind of emotion or thought that will get you to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Like we're here for the spark, and it's challenging when we don't have the space to reflect. And a lot of times I realize that a lot of people like to keep themselves in the familiarity so that they don't
Hmm.
have to reflect. If they just keep doing all of the A options, they're always going to get the A outcome. And
Correct.
there's so many other letters in the alphabet for us to get different outcomes that we just have to be willing to shift the shape that we're looking at so that we can see another option. And one of the things that I took a note down that you had mentioned was, being stuck from too many choices and
Well,
not wanting to make the choice because we're like, oh, this is just too much, and that often happens because we are in such a familiar zone that we're not meeting enough individuals with that have the possibility of coming from a different angle.
absolutely. I think also, when you have so many choices, you can get overwhelmed with the amount of choices. So it's easier to just not make a choice. A lot of people are so afraid to make the wrong choice. And I always say, like, okay, so if you make the wrong choice, you realize you've made the wrong choice, pivot. Pivot and make another choice. Like, we're never ever stuck with one thing. And when plan A doesn't work, move on to plan B and C and D. And guess what? When you get to Z, then you can start A, B, A, C. Like, the
Yes.
possibilities are endless. You just have to be willing to, leave the warmth of the cocoon of the misery you're in and get past it. Some people, like, one of the biggest things that struggles that I hear from a lot of my clients is they're feeling stuck because their goals don't feel aligned anymore. They don't feel like they live their purpose. Like, they know they are destined for more, but they don't even know what that is. I'm like, so what are you doing to explore that? Well, nothing. I need to be doing what I'm doing. I have bills to pay. Like, right now, I can't make any changes. And the answer really is you can, you just don't want to. And that's why I always say, pick your language very carefully. There's a difference between I can't make a change versus I don't really want to make a change. And when we admit that truth to ourselves, everything changes. That's when we realize, oh, we're stuck because we make a choice to be stuck. Because you do have a choice to get unstuck, but people don't. So, people get stuck in an unsatisfying or an emotionally draining job because they're so insecure about looking for somewhere else or interviewing, or that something that they'll find won't be as good. Well, how great is your current situation? Because if your job sucks and it's sucking the life out of you, find something else. But it's kind of hard. Like, I always tell people, oh, if you want to move to Italy, it's really easy. I can show you how. Oh, no, 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 we could never do that. I can never do that. I have the job and I have my friends. I'm like, then you mean you don't want to? Oh, no, I want to, I just can't. No, well, if you want to, you can. If you don't want to, then you can't. Be very, very clear with your definition of can't and won't. And that's, I think, the biggest feeling of being stuck is people think that they can't when the reality is they won't.
That's so pivotal. I was just saying that the other day to an acquaintance of mine. I was telling them that, well, when we have this conversation about said topic, I'm going to say you don't like it until I see you do something about it, because saying that you like something, but something's in the way for you receiving it, and you have the ability to remove that thing from being in the way, like very simply, like an operation, a simple operation, or a simple cleaning or a simple addition, and you prolong moving into that step, I'm going to say you don't like it until I see you doing the things to make sure you can obtain it. And then we'll have a different conversation. And I love the flow of the sounds that you're speaking with, because they're definitely giving me some downloads. Because another key part of the conversation that you're having that it came up is like, are we picking our true language? And Spirit was like, because people are living in a life of choice language, and they're having a language based on the choice they made versus having their language in the truth that they're being.
Absolutely. You know, it's as simple as, oh, I'm so broke. No, you're just limited in your financial abilities at the moment. Oh, I can't afford this. How about changing to, you know, something simple as it's not a priority right now. But, you know, people say, well, it is a priority, but I can't afford it. Well, if it was a priority, there are so many different things you can do to figure out where the finances can come from. Again, like the sad part is feeling stuck for a lot of people is perceived as something bad. And the reality, it doesn't have to be. Like the feelings that come with feeling stuck, to me, it seems like a catalyst for change, which can ultimately result in something positive. Like everybody goes into a rut. Everybody feels like, oh, I'm not where I want to be, or I feel like I've outgrown my friends, I've outgrown my city. You know, maybe you have goals that you haven't reached, or maybe, you know, you're self-judging and lowering your expectation. The reality is, when you decide that you want to make a change, that's when change will happen. But if you're going to be sitting there going, I can't do this, I can't do that, oh, this is not for me, I'm incapable of this, the reality is you have to look inside yourself and think to yourself, what language am I using? What vibration am I on? What energy am I putting out? You know, there's a lot of self-judgment. There's a lot low self-worth is prevents a lot of people from making positive changes. You know, people get stuck worrying, afraid to make a decision or change something in their lives because, you know, the unknown or what will come out of it is so frightening. You know, sometimes people are disappointed with how a situation has turned out, so they're too scared to move on. Like, you know, people who get married on, you know, without having all the information, without having everything in place, and realize they make a mistake. Well, you don't have to be with that person for the next 20 years. You don't have to stay in a job that makes you miserable and makes you dread going into work. And the biggest problem is we wait for something outside of us to change. You know, we'll watch YouTube videos and we'll do all these free master classes, hoping that, you know, doing that will get us unstuck. But change doesn't happen to us. It comes from within us. And yes, it's scary. And yes, it's painful, but it's so necessary to getting unstuck.
Change comes through application, not instructions.
Absolutely. And I tell people, you know, yeah, the road is going to be tough and it's going to be scary. And sometimes there'll be painful moments. But if you're looking to improve the situation, why is there an assumption that it's going to be sunshine and rainbows and we're going to be singing Kumbaya and holding hands while all these amazing changes happen to us? Like, I'll tell you, when I made the decision to move to Italy, those 5 months of planning and organizing, oh my God, they were the most overwhelming, infuriating, hellish 5 months to get the ball rolling. But here I am living now. I've been here for almost 6 months and life is wonderful, but the road to get here sucked. And that's okay. That's where I think where a lot of people go wrong is they're not okay with the crap that comes along for the ride. And I use this, it's a terrible analogy, but you'll please bear with me. You know, I always look at it like, look at a terrible disease. Like, I'll use cancer as an example. In some cases, there are options to combat the cancer, and that's, you know, going through chemo, going through radiation. The road is awful, but if it means a chance to live, Wouldn't everybody take that opportunity? Why would you not do that in every other area of your life? Yes, it's going to suck to get you to move out of the city that you live in. Yes, it's going to be scary to look for a new job. It's going to be very tedious and painful to start that new business. But the end result is where you want to be. Why not take a chance at small hardship along the way to get to the good part? That's where I think most people get really stuck, is not allowing themselves to explore the options because it takes too long, it costs too much, it's too painful, it takes a lot of work, it's emotional, mental, and physical upheaval, and people will not allow themselves to go through that.
Right. And this is these are the turning points of our healing journey that is seeking for us to set a course of intentionality, of being in purpose. And the last one of the previous guests that I had, they're not just a cancer coach, they're a cancer survivor, and they have taken the image of what that journey needs to look like, and they've transformed it, and they're now sharing it with other people. And that's really what expansion for us can really help us to look at differently, and understanding that our outcome, our transformational outcome, will be able to help others to be able to see the light. And if we're feeling the nudge to do something different, if you're feeling like, I don't want to go to that path, but I'm feeling stuck, encourage yourself to see where you can seek mentorship.
Exactly.
To apply the change, because there are people out here that are willing to stand in the effective space for you to see the benefit of even being in a stuck place. Because a lot of times it really is just a moment that's presenting to you to reflect and really go and dig and look at your roots, because what was coming to me, Spirit was speaking, like, those that are stuck are they're not allowing themselves to dig deep enough to really look to see where they're rooted at.
Yes. So many times when I say to people, when people tell me, oh, I'm feeling stuck. Okay, where are you feeling stuck? Well, I'm not sure. I just know that I'm stuck. Well, do a deep dive, identify the problem. When, I always tell people, when you're feeling stuck, try and find the reason why. Now, sometimes you can't pinpoint the exact reason, but you can find a general category. And I always say the solution to every problem starts with a decision to fix the problem. Now, not everything is going to work along the way, but you have to decide that where you are is more painful than the journey to get to where you want to be. How did I move? How did people say to me, how did you move to Italy? How did you make it happen? I decided that I was done being miserable in Toronto. I decided that I didn't want to feel stuck living in a place that did not spark joy, that did not feed my soul, that did not, create any more, I don't want to say excitement, but, a feeling of well-being. I decided to change, knowing that it was going to be a long and winding road to get here, but here I am. There's always a solution to every problem. This is my favorite saying. Every single problem on this planet has a solution. We just have to be willing to accept that not every solution is going to be what we thought of or what we anticipated or what we pictured doing to get us to where we want to be. And when we let go of the idea that it's always going to be joyful and exciting